Two numbers, 56 and 48. 56 is the Bill Prenatt sales story. I've been selling for 56 years. And so what I tried to do in this presentation is to take why people seem to be successful, why are some people more successful at sales than others, what is it that they do to be more successful, and how do they do it? So I'm going to answer those three questions in my presentation today. That's the 56. The second number, 48, is a number of obsolete sales books that I have in my sales library at home. So why is that? Why would I say that? Because if you look at most of the sales materials, it's all about talking and telling and manipulating and how I'm going to get you to do all these things. And I really haven't found any of that to be true. And so what I encourage people to do is just be authentic, be authentically you, and it's really the best way to sell. So here's my definition of selling. It's the basic principle of salesmanship, an abiding interest and inspired insight into the needs and wants of people. And I have found that works for me. The acronym there, ABMNF, refers to always be making new friends. Right, so whenever you're out, whatever you're doing, you should be available and you should always be interested in making new friends. So let's start with the why question. What I've seen over the years is that there's been a transition from transactional selling to becoming more value-able. And so today, in order for us to be successful with our growing our business, we have to be value-able. People who are buying from us need to see that we are valuable to their business. Secondly, we have to blast out of our comfort zone. You know, many of us are used to being in this particular place. In order to be successful in sales, you've got to shed that and be authentically you. So what I encourage, and it's a concept that I call the G-myth power compared to like the E-myth power, is there's three things that you need in order to be successful. Technical knowledge of your industry. You have to have the systems that support what you're trying to do, and you have to have persuasive ability in order to do that, and I'll show you some things along those lines. You'll notice the little pluses on each one of those. All of those are multiplied, though, by your drive to achieve. So, you know, you can have those other three things, but if you're not driven to achieve, then chances are you're going to have a problem with your revenue. So our good friend Dale Furtwängler, I guess probably Dale a couple of years ago now, introduced us to this topic. So you have to sell with confidence. And if you haven't read Dale's book on confidence, I would suggest you do. But Dale outlines for us there what we need to be thinking about. But if you're not selling with confidence, I suggest that you purchase Dale's book. And I don't have time to cover all that today, but you can't go wrong. The other thing is you have to bring the best version of you can when you're meeting people and when you're making calls. You can't, just because you're having a bad day, or just because the call before that wasn't a good call, that doesn't give you the right to bring a bad version of you. So if you go in calling on people and you're pessimistic about things, likely you're going to have a problem. So you want to make sure that you bring the best version of you and that you're optimistic. So what is it that people do? Single biggest mistake that most people do is they try to get around to selling. I'm going to get around to selling. No. Selling is something that should be your top priority all the time, every day. I don't care what you're doing, you should always be selling. So if you're waiting to the day when you actually have time to sell, likely that'll never occur. You have to be selling all the time. Most people don't realize that selling is just a numbers game. There's only a handful of things that I've outlined here that you have to do. Where most people tend to go wrong is they set these aloof sales goals. What you really need is specific activity-oriented numbers that drive the things that you want to achieve. So the number of calls that you're going to make, the number of new customers you're going to make, whatever those numbers are that drive your business, you need to focus on those numbers. The other thing is you have to balance the numbers. So it doesn't do you any good at all to have a whole bunch of people on your list if it's poor quality. Or it doesn't do you any good to have a few poor quality people if you're not balancing them with the right number. So finding that sweet spot between having the right number of clients in your funnel as well as having them be quality people are an important point. So how is it that some people are more successful? First of all, they understand that there is a process at work. It starts with suspecting, Prospecting, we come up with potential buyers, we eventually get buyers, and we convert those buyers to clients. But unfortunately, most of us are doing that in a manual way, and this gets to the point of being automatic. So on your table there, you have a handout that I would appreciate if everyone, it looks like this. There should be enough for everyone there. I don't care whether you use this funnel or not, but you have to have an organized, systematic way of managing the people that you're trying to sell. So if you look on the left-hand side, it says step 1, step 2, step 3, right? You see those along the left-hand side. Step 1 is the universe. That's what I call the marketing aspect of what you want to do. If you look over on the right-hand side where it says known, and you look on the left-hand side, it says unknown at the top under step 1. Is everybody following me on that? My view is that where is it that we should be focused on as business owners is the people that already know, like, and trust us. That's the people that we can, because you can't do it all. The left-hand side, the unknowns, you need to decide, are you going to find them or are they going to find you? Because it's a different strategy, and then you need to hire people to do that. I don't really believe that as small business owners, we can do the marketing that we need to do in our business. And my view is, and we practice it in our business, is I'm going to find people who know a lot more than I do about how to do that left-hand side. But the process of having effective marketing boils down to this slide. So how do you move people from being cold to warm to hot to boiling fans? You're going to do that in a systematic way. I'm going to hire that done. Other than the people that already know, like, and trust me, I'm going to work that like crazy. So that's who I'm going to focus my attention on, and I'm going to hire the rest of it to be done. Steps 2 and 3 on your list there is what I would call, I'm not going to talk about marketing, it's a whole different deal, and we've got a lot of people in the room who do marketing, so I want to focus on the sales part of getting things done. Here are the things that I have found work for successful sales calls. Customers talk more than sellers. Sellers ask more questions. Sellers talk about products and solutions later, and sellers learn the buyer's roles. So this is my proprietary approach to working through that system, and I'm going to take you through the individual steps by using examples on the how. First of all, selling is about trust, right? If you're going to sell people, they have to trust you, and so that takes time. I find a lot of people try to make a call and they think they're going to get an order. I didn't get a $6 million order by thinking I wanted to get a $6 million order. I got it by building trust. And I encourage you to not be desperate. Don't call on people as if you're desperate, but call on people to get another call and build trust with them. You need to understand that buyers are motivated by two things, either desire for gain and fear of loss. It's important that you understand what that is that you're selling into. Also, it's important that you understand roles. Most selling situations, there are multiple buyer roles. We don't think enough about what are those roles that those people are designed to do. And I'm giving you some examples of that. But so this is an example of the economic buyer role. Who is it that controls money? If it's a multiple buyer situation, so you need to know what is their role. If it's a user buyer, what is their role, right? Or if it's a technical buyer, what is their role? But when you're making calls on people, this should all be thought about in advance. You cannot, with the internet today, make calls on people and not know this before you ever meet them. You know, you've got to either find that out through LinkedIn, through whatever investigating you're doing, but you have to understand what these roles are. Otherwise, you're talking to people about the wrong things. And so it can be a very fatal mistake. But the single biggest thing that I see is people are doing too much talking and we're not asking enough questions and truly listening. Open-ended questions, who, what, where, when, why, tell me about, are the things that generally engage people in what you want to do. This is something that I've learned over the years. I call it EGO questions. They're in this order. I'm going to first engage with people. I'm going to show genuine interest in my questions, and then I'm going to talk about opportunities third. Why? Because I have to first of all build trust with people in order to have these conversations. So I'm going to organize my questions. And if you don't have a questions library, I would really encourage you to develop one. So I have a questions library of 250 questions. So when I'm making a call that I built over the years, I select from that library what questions I'm going to ask based on this individual situation. So for you, engage questions, examples, what's the newest trend in your industry? How much time do you have today? Questions that are not harmful, but I'm going to engage people in a conversation. Genuine interest questions. How do you reach your prospects? What questions do you hear most from your customers? So it sounds like your customers want to use a lot of options. Is that correct? So I'm going to engage them in questions around that, and then I'm going to ask them about opportunities questions. What if there was a way to? I'm interested in your reaction to. What if you meet with your owner and look at a sample? So all of these things are leading to getting them to tell me more about what they're trying to accomplish. One of the biggest things that I would encourage people to remember is people are not buying based on facts. We tend to think that we have all of these great facts that we're going to present to people. It's a well-known fact that people are buying based on emotion. And so it's important that we understand the difference between features and benefits. Benefits are what something does. Features are what it is. So all of the things that you're so proud of that you like to tell people about, when you keep talking about that, you're building resistance into the sale, right? So talk about things that are benefit-oriented, that are values of the feature to the customer, not the things that are characteristic of your product or service. This is really hard to do, and it's just a bad habit. So think about, I'm going to talk to people about the benefits to them because I don't want to build resistance into the sale. The second thing that most people have a hard time with is handling resistance. Guess what? Ask questions to clarify the resistance. If people are resisting what you want to do, this is a great habit to have anyhow. Ask them more questions about and get clarification of why they're resisting. Paraphrase the resistance with them, and then respond with benefits and ask for next steps. This is something that's like tattooed on my forehead when it comes to getting things done with clients. I can't imagine handling resistance any other way after all these years. So effective paraphrasing, it states the customer's need behind the resistance, not the negative aspect of the resistance itself. And the thing I would like to leave you with is this. Wally Whipple, who was one of the top salespeople that I worked with in my last job, said that when selling ceases to be fun, selling ceases. So in order to really be an effective salesperson, you have to have fun. It has to be fun. If it's drudgery, if it's work, if you're going in there, it shows through to people, right? You have to be in there. You have to be having a good time. Now, you've got to do all those things that we talked about earlier, but it has to be easy. That's why I think being authentic is so important. If I'm in there trying to con you into thinking about how you should think, I'm going to fail. So that's pretty much it. What questions do you have for me?
Bill, is that you as a young kid at your lemonade stand?
It is. How did you know? Yeah.
Kind of look like you.
I was thinner and better looking then. Yeah.
Questions from the audience?
I should know. I should have known. Yeah. Who else?
Oh, yeah, we got him now. So I want to ask, Bill, throughout your career in the beginning, in your sales process, were you trying to go in and close that deal, and has that evolved now to where you are, and that is developing the trust and trying to help that person and being more consultative? So has it evolved with you like that?
It's a great question, Jim. The company that I worked for insisted that we do a lot of personal self-development. So because of that training, I kind of avoided that, Jim, earlier in my career. But it is the thing that most people make the single biggest mistake on, Jim, is they get anxious and they're trying to call on people. But no, that's something that came easy to me for some reason. My greatest successes have come from not trying to sell anything, just trying to make friends and solve problems. Yes, Mark.
So you said you have a question library. What's the question you go to more than any question of all out of this whole library? What's your one go-to question most frequently?
I think the best questions that I ask are when I know something about the person and I ask them something personally about them. It could be something that's going on in their life. It could be, but it seems like people love to talk about themselves. And so when I engage them in a question around them, around their family, around something about their business, that's the thing that seems to resonate most. Not all the technical stuff that you might think of. Yes.
Hello. So our strategy right now is to go door to door and pass out our flyers. And sometimes there is a homeowner home, and so we can kind of they'll ask to do a home estimation on the spot. I feel like I find myself whenever I'm doing that, it's not as structured as I'd like, opposed to scheduling something. So do you have any tips on how we can kind of bring some structure into that so that we're not surprised and we can kind of have a little bit more control over that?
First of all, kudos to you for doing that. It's a tough way to grow your business. I like to have a plan, and then I like to abandon my plan based on the situation. So I don't encourage people to make calls without a plan, but I also encourage don't to stick to your plan just because that's the plan, right? And so you've got to kind of, I don't want to sound like I'm talking out of both corners of my mouth. You have to plan it out, and then you got to throw the plan away when it seems like that's not what the customer wants to do.
When you meet potential clients for the first time, what goals do you have for that meeting?
Get another meeting.
It's a good plan.
Yeah, yeah.
Bill, thank you. When you spoke earlier about speaking in benefits to the client, talk to me a little bit about how you actually do that transition. Do you draw out of the client some information and then repackage that and send it back to them, or is that something that you're kind of drawing down yourself?
Great question, Dan. So I would encourage you, if you don't have a short list of benefits in your business, I would encourage you to develop them. All right? Benefits are things that you're going to say to people that they can't possibly resist. All right? So it's about making money. It's about solving a staffing problem. It's about whatever it is that your business provides. Is that if you're going to talk to people and all they're doing is going through their mental checklist of I don't need that, and I don't need that, and I don't need that, and I don't need that, then you're not presenting benefits. So, Dan, I would say make a short list. What really, you're a chiropractor, what is it that people really benefit? You'll have less pain or, whatever those things are. But always talk in terms that's in the best interest of the customer, not the technical aspect of what you do, is what I would say. Yes?
You started and ended with being authentic, which I totally agree. And as I mentor people, that's what I talk about. But I find that also equates to confidence. So as you're mentoring or as you're working yourself, how do you best focus on building that confidence so you can truly go in and be genuine and authentic?
I develop small wins. I actually trick my mind into believing that this is a small win if it isn't, but I believe in building on small wins. Little, not big wins, but I just setting small, I'm going to get into this client today, I'm going to make another appointment with this client. It's going to be small, manageable, and I'm going to build my own momentum through my small wins.
Okay, we're almost out of time, so this will be our last question.
Bill, how do you improve your pitch? How do you go about becoming more refined and more succinct and more clear in communicating your message in sales calls?
Great question, Dale. So for those of you who know me, my whole business career has been a petri dish. I look at everything as a big experiment, and so I try things and sometimes I fail and I throw those away, and sometimes I try things and they work and I do more of them. And it's not any more sophisticated than that. I believe in trial and error and getting rid of the things that seem to serve me and my clients, and things that don't, I don't do them anymore. It's that simple for me. Are we good? Yeah. Thanks, you guys. Don't hesitate. For those of you who know me, I'm very big into helping people achieve their potential. So, if you didn't get your questions answered, I'll be here after the meeting. Thank you.